So earlier in the week, I mentioned I was gonna do some new content, opening some decks and reviewing some current decks that I have. I got all four of the murder at Karlov Manor. Um, One is Deadly Disguise, which is red, green, white, and the box suggests it's geared around disguise cards and big surprises. And another one we have is Deep Clue C, which revolves around clue tokens and card advantage. The third deck is Revenant Recon, which revolves around Surveil and Resurrect cards. It's a black blue deck, and actually the um, second deck I mentioned, the Deep Clusi, is green, white, blue. And the last deck is Blame Game. It's red, white, and revolves around goad your foes and identify suspects. Um, I guess where um, this one's the most recent one I grabbed and have in my hands. I'm just gonna go over the blame game one today, and then the other three I will slowly um, do a video for over the next couple of weeks. I forgot that they like to open from the bottom a little bit better. So you end up having a little envelope with a deck box and a sample pack that I believe is just two cards, so it's more of a tease than an actual um, booster pack or anything. Um, the back of the case has some little punch out things, and then I actually pulled out the deck already. And usually there's one of these little things that sometimes gives you information about the deck, and then it'll have some characters. So this one happens to be the first suggestion for a commander. It's not necessarily the only commander. Usually, a lot of the commander decks will have two or three possible commanders for the commander um, color combo. In this case, there's um, two. One happens to be a little bit thicker. Um, it's like a different card stock, so um, you know you would choose whichever one you want to use, and then pull the other one out of the deck. So Nelly Borka impulsive accuser. It's cost two, a red and a white. It's a 2/4. Obviously, it's a legendary creature where, it can be a commander. And then the creature type's human detective, has vigilance. Whenever Nelly Borka impulse of accuser attacks, suspect target creature, then goad all suspected creatures. A suspected creature has menace and can't block. Whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls deals combat damage to one or more of your opponents, and you and the controller of those creatures each draw a card. So that's kind of interesting, getting your opponent to goad, or like attack another opponent if they're able, and then you and the opponent are drawing cards. Then we have an, another possible commander, Feather Radiant Arbiter. It's a 4/3 for a red, white, and another white. It's a legendary creature. The creature type's angel. It has flying and lifelink, which as an angel I would hope it'd have flying, but I'm sure there might be one or two random ones that might not. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell that targets only Feather Radiant Arbiter, you may choose any number of other creatures that spell could target and pay 2 for each of those creatures. If you do for each of those creatures, copy that spell. The copy targets that creature. Copies of permanent spells become tokens. And we have Immortal Obligations. It's a instant for 1 and a white. Return target creature card from an opponent's graveyard to the battlefield under their control with a duty counter on it. For as long as that creature has a duty counter on it, is goaded and can attack you or a permanent you control and can't block creatures you control. Otherworldly Escort. It's a 4/3 human detective for 3 and a planes. It has flash, so you could cast it on your opponent's turn if you had the mana. When Otherworldly Escort dies, if it's not a spirit, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with 4 charge counters on it. It's a sprite detective. It's no longer a human. And then one of the abilities down at the bottom is you can pay 1 in the plains and tap it. Remove a charge counter from Otherworldly Escort. Destroy target creature that dealt damage to you this turn. So that's kind of interesting that you can kind of have a creature, but then the creature can be used for removal in a way to, if your opponent dealt damage to you. Um, the kind of like downside is you're tapping your creature, so you're not able to use it to attack or block in order to use it as like a removal spell. Next we have Redemption Arc. It's a enchantment aura that costs 2 in a planes. Enchant creature. Enchant creature has indestructible and is goaded. It attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you if able. And you can pay 1 in the planes to exile enchanted creature. Trouble in Paris. It's a enchantment that costs 2 and 2 planes. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. Whenever an opponent attacks you with two or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. So that's kind of cool that you get to tell your opponent, sorry, no extra turn, and you get to draw if your opponent's doing a lot of stuff on, either their turn or casting multiple spells on, an opponent's turn. Next we have Havoc Eater. It's a 3/3 elemental that costs 5 and 2 mounds, has flying, and when Havoc Eater enters the battlefield, for each opponent, goad up to one target creature that opponent controls. Put X/1/1 counters on Havoc Eater where X is the total power of creatures goaded this way. So obviously, the more opponents you have, the better, because the amount of power between all of the goaded creatures, is getting put on this to, so that's kind of cool. Hot Pursuit. It's an enchantment for 1 and a mountain. When Hot Pursuit enters the battlefield, suspect target creature an opponent controls. As long as Hot Pursuit remains on the battlefield, that creature is also goaded. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if 2 or more players have lost the game, gain control of all goaded and or suspected creatures until end of turn. Untap them, they gain haste until end of turn. Mob Verdict. It's a sorcery that costs 2 and 2 mounds. Secret Council. Each player secretly votes for another player, then those votes are revealed. For each vote an opponent received, Mob Verdict deals 2 damage to that player and each creature that player controls. For each vote you received, draw a card. So kind of an interesting political card almost. I mean, where you're casting the votes in secret, it's not 100% a political thing unless you already agreed with people, I'll work with you, or, not. So, kind of punish your opponents and the reward of drawing cards if you get picked. Prisoner's Dilemma. It's a sorcery for 3 and 2 mounds. Each opponent secretly chooses Silence or Snitch, then the choices are revealed. If an opponent chooses Silence, Prisoner Dilemma deals 4 damage to each of them. If each opponent chooses Snitch, Prisoner Dilemma deals 8 damage to each of them. Otherwise, Prisoner's Dilemma deals 12 damage to each opponent who chooses Silence. And it has a flashback of 5 and 2 mounds. So, good way to deal damage to all your opponents. I mean, it's a little bit costly, but to deal damage to more than one opponent at a time is also good. Take the Bait. It's an instant for 2, a mountain and a plains. Cast this spell only during an opponent's turn and only during combat. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn. Untap all attacking creatures and goad them. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So, I mean, that's a good combat trick to, prevent damage to you and then kind of redirect it because you're goading creatures to attack your opponents. Ransom Note. It's an artifact clue that costs 1. When Ransom Note enters the battlefield, surveil 1. and you can pay 2 sacrifice ransom note. Choose one. Cloak the top card of your library, go target creature, or draw a card. So, you're basically paying 3 in total. 1 to play this, and you're getting to surveil when you play it. And then, additional 2 and sacrificing it to do something. So, um, it almost feels like it could have been an instant or sorcery and done all those things at the same time, but sometimes some decks benefit from having artifacts on the battlefield, so I guess that could be one of the reasons they did it that way. Angel of the Ruins. It's a 5/7 artifact creature that the creature type's angel, costs 5 and 2 planes, so on the higher end of, cost for a creature that you might want to play, but also at that cost is going to be doing something decent, so it'll be good for mid to late game or if you ramp early on. It's flying. When Angel of Ruins enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Also has plane cycling 2, so you would, instead of paying the cost of the creature to play it onto the battlefield, you would pay 2 and discard this card to search your library for a planes card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So at that point, if it's early on in the game and you're looking for, a basic land that happens to be a plains, or I guess it doesn't have to be, if it's like a dual color but with plains, and um, you could, pay 2 mana to essentially search for the, planes that you need. Next we have Comeuppance. It's a instant for 3 in a plains. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn by sources you don't control. If damage from a creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to that creature. If damage from a non-creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to the source's controller. So another great prevent prevention spell, preventing damage done to you, and then it redirects it to, you know, your opponent's creature or, their um, life total. Next we have Darian, King of Kjeldar. It's a 3/3 for 4 and 2 planes. Whenever you're dealt damage, you may create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, which is kind of interesting. That's a May ability, but I guess there's some instances where a creature entering the battlefield might punish you, so there might be some instances that you might choose not to create those tokens. Duelist Heritage. It's an enchantment for 2 in a plains. Whenever one or more creatures attacks you, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. So whenever one or more creatures attacks. So it doesn't specify whether it's your creatures or your opponents, which I guess is why it's a May ability. You may have target attacking creature gain double strike. I don't. I guess if your opponent's attacking someone other than you, you might decide to give them double their um, creatures double strike so they can kill a different opponent's creature, maybe. That's the only time I could think it would be beneficial for your opponent to get the benefit of something that you would likely want for your creatures. Elspeth, Sun Champion. It's a planeswalker that enters with 4 loyalty counters unless you have something like doubling season to double counters. It costs 4 and 2 planes. The +1 ability is create 3/1/1 soldier creature tokens. The -3 ability is destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. And the -7 ability is you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 in flying. So if you have a way to get more counters on this, obviously the ultimate, the -7 could get really bonkers really quick, giving your creatures +2/+2 in flying. The amount of creatures you have that, would just be pretty good, but you're also like the plus ability is putting 3/1/1s on the battlefield, so you're building an army to get to use the emblem if you don't have a way to or counters on it. Keeper of the Accord. It's a 3/4 human soldier for 3 in the plains. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you may search your library for a basic plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So this is a great equalizing card. I mean, obviously, it dies to removal, but maybe in the early game, it's saying, okay, you have more creatures than me, let me create a creature, or you have more lands than me, let me create a creature. So good for trying to level the battlefield. Warren of the Third Path. It's a 2/1 legendary creature, human artificer. Whereas a legendary creature could be a commander, just not for this deck where it's a mono white versus a red white. Cost 2 in the plains. Has vigilance. When Warren of the Third Path enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. And it has a tap ability down at the bottom. You and target opponent each draws a card. I don't know how I feel about giving an opponent that benefit of drawing a card, but it's always nice to draw a card yourself, so could go either way, depending on the game. Promise of Loyalty. It's a sorcery for 4 in the plains. Each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Each of those creatures can attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. Selfish Squire. It's a 1/1 human soldier for 3 in the plains. Has flash, so you could play it on opponent's turn if you have the mana. Whenever Selfish Squire enters the battlefield, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, put that many 1/1 counters on Selfish Squire. So obviously starts as a 1/1, which is kind of sad for something that costs 4 mana, but where this deck has some stuff for preventing damage, it wouldn't be unrealistic to see the 1/1 counters getting added to him and him getting a bigger creature. It would just all depend on how you're drawing your cards. If you get this before those cards that can prevent damage. Seventh, Reclamation. The sorcery for 2 and a planes. Return target permanent card was mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell you cast from the graveyard. Oh, if this spell you cast from a graveyard, you may copy the spell and may choose new targets for the copy. Has a flashback for 4 on the planes. You may cast this card from the graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Smuggler's Share. 2 and a planes. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card for each opponent who draws 2 or more cards this turn. Then create a creature token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under their control this turn. So, some decks obviously like to draw more cards or play more lands than other decks. So this kind of it's a interesting way of saying, well, if you're gonna do stuff, I'm gonna do stuff too. Stalking Leonin to 3/3 Cat Archer for 2 and a planes. When stalking Leonin enters the battlefield, secretly choose an opponent. Reveal the player you choose. Exile target creature that's attacking you if it's controlled by the chosen player. Activate only once. So, good way of getting rid of a single creature. Interesting that you're secretly choosing an opponent just to reveal it later. Suntine. So I remember this card from back in the day. I don't remember specifically when it came out, but I feel like it has to have been close to 10 years, maybe more. It's a 6/6 giant for 4 and 2 planes. It has vigilance. Whenever Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So obviously high mana cost, but also high value because when it's entering or when it attacks, it's bringing something from the graveyard back to the battlefield if its mana cost is 3 or less. And I feel like we've already seen a few of those in this deck, and I'm sure there's some more with how much we still have to look at. Windborn Muse, the 2/3 spirit for 3 and a planes, has flying. Creatures can attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. So, good way of kind of controlling your opponent, so to speak, by, or, punishing them, however you want to look at it, by making them pay 2 mana per creature to attack you. Winds of Wrath, the sorcery for 3 and 2 planes. Destroy all creatures that aren't enchanted. They can't be regenerated. So, feels like I think it's Wrath of God, but instead of just creatures, it's enchanted creatures. So could go either way on that one. Obviously, there's a lot more decks now that um, revolve around enchantments. Agater Ant. It's a 2/2 insect for 2 and a melon. At the beginning of your end step, each player puts 2/1/1 counters on a creature they control. Goad each creature that had counters put on it this way until your next turn. Those creatures attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. Brash Taunter. It's a 1/1 goblin for 4 and a melon. Has indestructible. When Brash Taunter is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. So it seems like I believe it's Stuffy Doll or something that does something similar. You know, it's indestructible, and you know if you're damaging the creature, it's damaging someone else, and also had as an ability 2 and a mountain tap. Brash Taunter fights another target creature, so even if you don't use him as a blocker, you can do the tap ability and pay the mana to make it fight a creature and then deal damage to your opponent. So that's kind of interesting. Disrupt Decorum. It's a sorcery for 2 and 2 mountains. Goad all creatures you don't control. Until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. So, a very good way of having your opponents fight each other and not do damage to you if their creatures are able to attack someone other than you. Atali Primal Storm. So this one kind of is somewhat familiar to me because I think I got this for a friend's dinosaur deck. It's a 6/6 legendary creature. Obviously, it's mono red, so it can't be used as a commander for this deck where it's red white. It's an elder dinosaur. Um, so yeah, 6/6 elder dinosaur for 4 and 2 mounds. Whenever a Atali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. So, I mean, pretty good value for what it does, because, you know, if your opponent doesn't have a kill spell, you're basically playing cards for free from both the top of your library and the top of an opponent's library. Fiendish Duo. It's a 5/5 devil for 4 and 2 mountains. Has first strike. If a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage to that player instead. So with how much we still have to go, I'm gonna make a second video about this. Given probably half of this is lands, but it's how long the video is, I figured this would be a good break. Do another video later tonight. So thanks for watching and have a good day.